I've always believed that creativity can give us a way forward, even when everything else seems to be falling apart. Hello, everyone. This is Dani, a 37-year-old Argentine woman who has been living in a small town in the Patagonian Andes since 2022. And for the past 10 months, I've been living in a cabin I can now call my own. A few weeks ago, I decided to share in another video the expectations versus the reality of building my cabin, particularly how challenging the financial side of things became, the disappointment of being let down by contractors I trusted, and the failure of another project that was going to help me support my life here. So, in today's video, I want to share another side of this story. When I was still living in the city, I used to work as a graphic and UI designer at a tech company for 4 years. And in my last year, as the company grew, they started giving me tasks that were becoming less and less creative and increasingly repetitive and robotic. Creativity has always been at the core of my soul. I realized that the lack of space for creativity left me feeling useless and deeply unmotivated. So, after a few performance reviews in which I was repeatedly told by my bosses I wasn't doing well, they decided to let me go at the end of 2016. Not long after, I turned this into an opportunity to travel and learn about other cultures, and in the process, it opened up new doors for my creativity. The idea of weaving was already in the back of my mind. So one day, while traveling in Scotland, I went to a craft charity shop in the village where I was staying, without any intention of buying anything and just out of curiosity. But suddenly that changed because in a box mixed in with other craft tools, there was a tiny frame loom with three little balls of yarn. It was still in its cardboard box, and it said on it, "Weaving for Children." I didn't even have to think twice about whether to buy it. Now I was the proud owner of my first frame loom. So, by the time I was back in Argentina, I finally had the time to sit down, look up a simple tutorial, and weave my first textile. My journey as a weaver began. Almost 3 years flew by before I officially decided that I was going to make a living as a weaver, creating textiles, designing weaving patterns, and making other learning resources gave me life. Isn't that how creativity works? You give life to things, and then they give life back to you. So, what happened during those 3 years, you might ask? Well, I traveled back and forth between Buenos Aires and other places. First to Colombia, and the following year back to Scotland for the second time. And throughout this period, I was able to support my travels and my life by renting out my studio apartment in the city to tourists from all around the world. And as a side income, I was also doing some freelance design work and selling my travel photographs online. I cannot not create. I don't only weave, I also take photographs, write poems and micro stories, sing and dance. And now I make videos with all these stories too. So, even though I was going through an existential crisis and asking myself, how am I going to be able to support myself in the long run, if I never want to work for anyone else again, it was also the only period in my life when I felt sort of carefree because it definitely gave me the time and space to explore more of my creative side and consider it a path I could pursue in the long term. During those 3 years, there was a moment, before even deciding to travel to Scotland for the second time, when I started doubting about my capabilities. I feel like maybe I didn't have the tools or ability to support myself independently, so I made my mind to apply for a job again. I remember being called for a few interviews, but then I wasn't called back. I assumed that after not working for anyone for a long time, maybe I wasn't qualified enough anymore. And to be honest, I'm glad. The thought of spending 8, 9, or 10 hours between four walls, locked in an office with no natural light, made me feel sick. So then, I ended up traveling back and forth to Scotland for the second time. And when I settled back into my apartment in Buenos Aires at the beginning of 2020, things slowly started to change. Some for the better, others for the worse. By this point, I had already been weaving for almost 3 years, so I thought maybe this is my chance to give it a go as a full time job. A month and a half later, the pandemic hit. I must say that even though it affected me immensely on an emotional level, 2020 was my best selling year. Nobody really knew what to do with their lives during lockdown, and a lot of people, including myself, turned to creativity to keep their sanity. I was already putting together frame loom kits and selling them to anyone who wanted to make their way into the world of weaving for the first time. So, a couple of months went by, and when things started to cool down and daily life seemed to be getting back to normal, I started to plan my exit from the city. In 2021, I finally came to Patagonia for the first time as a trial run. That same year, I supported myself by renting out my apartment again and through my business, which at that point was also selling digital guides and weaving patterns. Over the next couple of years, I not only officially moved to this town and kept creating different products and alternatives that would allow me to support myself, but my mom also decided to leave the city and move here with me, bringing not only my remaining belongings, but our animals as well, including my cat, who hadn't lived with me for several years at that point. But living together brought some unexpected challenges in our relationship that affected my well being and unfortunately took energy from me that I'm still trying to get back. When you live with exhaustion and without much emotional support, everything is harder. I can think of so many tasks, ideas, projects, and dreams, and still only manage to achieve a teeny tiny fraction of them. So, being creative is not an issue for me, but turning those ideas into reality quickly is. Still, I feel very lucky that my creativity flows like the rivers I get to visit regularly where I live. At the end of 2024, I sold my apartment in the city, the one thing that could make my dream cabin financially possible. And once it was sold, I was able to find and buy a small plot of land and start planning the construction of my home. Even though I was already struggling, that was such an exciting moment in my life. Then, things began to fall apart even more. My business started to slow down for reasons completely beyond my control, just as this whole process began. I couldn't focus much on work since the little energy I had was mainly directed toward the building process. And on top of that, not long after construction began, my mom decided it was an excellent moment to move back to the city, leaving me feeling abandoned and unsupported at a time that was supposed to be very important in my life. Here I have to digress for a moment and say that I'm a woman who never got married, had children, or earned a degree. So having the home I dreamed of in the place I chose felt like one of the few major milestones in my life I could truly celebrate, at least in terms of social expectations. So, this experience made me feel like my life wasn't something worth celebrating. I know it's not true, but it still hurts. Finally, after 6 months, a couple of nervous breakdowns, a fight with my mom, and feeling completely defeated, my dream cabin was finally done in October of 2025. There were still hardships after moving, things that weren't finished by the contractors, poor water pressure that left me without water for a month in the middle of summer, and a business that was still struggling, among other problems. As you could see, I was already emotionally exhausted, but mostly financially broken and unable to pay anyone to make the necessary repairs and the improvements. But when my neighbors and some lovely people I know showed up and offered to help, I accepted, and they assisted me in solving at least some of these issues. So, this year, after trying to keep my business afloat for more than a year, I started thinking that nothing I do seems to be enough. So I decided something needed to change. So a few months ago, I took the time to update a resume that hadn't been touched in 9 years. I must say that many things have changed in the job market, from the skills and roles that employers are looking for, to how people present themselves, to the many job ads that seem legitimate until you realize they're not. Even after that, I sent my resume to a few places where I realistically thought I could fill the role and do a good job, but I haven't been contacted. The truth is, who is going to hire me? I've worked for myself for 9 years, and it's not like I've studied for a new career. I've learned, yes, but about life, my life. I've learned about creating the things I love. All these years, I've managed to make a living, at least in part, doing something I love: weaving, designing patterns, and teaching people how to weave. I tried other things as well, like sharing my need for a job with the people I know, but unfortunately, most of them are struggling in their own ways too, or they can help me in that way. Something I notice is that people who live here and have a stable income usually either work for the local government, have a rental property for tourists during high season, work remotely, or have a business elsewhere that provides them with an income from afar. And to be honest, at this point of my life, I don't even have the ability or the energy to put on a mask and pretend to be someone I'm not, just to convince someone who doesn't even know me to hire me. And for how long? Maybe I don't know how to survive outside my creativity, and maybe that's why I can't give up. why should I trade the little vitality I have left, the part of me that is fed by the things I create, for something that would leave me feeling lifeless and disconnected from myself and the life I built? I tried everything within my reach with no success, except that a few days ago I passed by my local post office and asked, what can I actually send from here? So here's the good news. They confirm that even though I can't send big packages, I can send lightweight envelopes abroad. Now, this is what I'm doing. I keep going, trying to find new ways forward. In these last few weeks, since I created my channel, I've received comments asking how they can support me. So I've been working on creating a small collection, at least to start with, called Letters from Patagonia. I thought the idea of receiving an envelope in the mail, like we used to in the old days, would be lovely, fun, a little magical, and exciting. Each envelope contains one of my nature photographs with a personal handwritten note on the back and a hand-woven bookmark matching the essence of the picture. I've been taking these photographs over the past 4 years as a way to feel closer to this land and remind myself to pay attention to the little details around us and the beauty of the world. So, I wanted to close this video by saying three things. The first one is that I'm still struggling and I don't want to hide it anymore. Sometimes I'm very good at pretending I'm okay, but I'm doing what I can to stay afloat and relying on myself for almost everything, emotionally and financially. The second one is that I don't intend to mix my channel with my business. I want my channel to exist independently, and I see this space not as an extension of my business, but as something completely new that could allow me to explore other parts of myself and open up in different ways. And the third one is that if you're interested in getting one of the letters from Patagonia, I leave the link in the description. I've made only 5 for now, but I would love to make many more and send them all over the world. Last but not least, I want to thank everyone who has supported my tiny channel so far. Whether by leaving kind words in the comments, liking, subscribing, or making a donation so I can carry on. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you feel connected to my stories, feel free to subscribe.